Hernandez, que es cofundador de dexFreight. Un aplauso para Hector, por favor.
Hello. The world around us is about to go through a major transformation. And we are very lucky to be in the middle of it, not only as a witness, but to also to be part of that transformation, driving it a little bit. My name is Hector Hernandez. I'm co-founder, Chief Visionary Officer, and Chief Strategy Officer of dexFreight. And I will try to talk today a little bit about how we are using blockchain and machine learning in the supply chain. This is a business-to-business platform, and how these technologies that are at the center of this transformation that's about to happen can be leveraged in logistics specifically. So for the ones that don't understand the difference between supply chain and logistics, basically think of it, supply chain is the coach, and logistics is the best player in the football team. Okay, so logistics takes care, supply chain comprises all aspects of the product cycle, for example, from farm to fork in agricultural products, while logistics takes care of or address the movement of those goods, for instance, from the manufacturer to a warehouse. Just to give you some perspective of the massive size of this industry, let me move a little bit here so you can see better. The global logistics market today is $8.2 trillion. By 2023, it's going to be $15.5 trillion. Again, going to perspective here, if it was a country, it will be the second largest economy in the world. In the US, which is the main focus of the dexFreight platform at the beginning, this is how the market is distributed. So we have about 250,000 manufacturers, about $2 trillion worth of goods gets moved every year. And this is done by 15.5 million trucks, 2 million tractor trailers, 3.5 million truck drivers, and over 300 million consumers. But this industry, even though it's massive, is plagued with a lot of problems. And we are trying to solve some of them. Low asset utilization is a big one. If you see a truck going by you in any market, it's not only for the US market, this happens all over the world, there's a big chance that that truck is empty on the way to pick up something or after he delivers something. And this is accounted for 15 to 40%. So 40% of the trucks, think about this for a second, are empty in the road. Putting a toll in traffic, right? Polluting the environment, also using the infrastructure, and this needs to be fixed. The other thing is the industry is very, very fragmented. So in the US, 90% of the companies that move trucks own 5 trucks or less, and 97% of those companies are 20 trucks or less. So it's a very fragmented industry, but it's also, with these small companies, have very little resources to invest in technology. So this is another problem we are addressing. There's a big problem on loss of the freight and theft, accounted for over $30 billion. The process, and to give you some perspective, my background is in logistics. Over the last 20 years, I've been working in the logistics environment as what is called a third-party logistics provider or a freight broker. And this inefficient process, the process that I'm talking about the efficiency here, when we're looking for a truck for one of our customers, we go to a lengthy process of finding that truck, but when you find it, you need to do what is called the onboarding, which takes about 3 hours to basically do a background check on the driver, the company, everything they do. So it's a lot of time that gets wasted there. Then you have the problem of inaccurate invoices. Some statistics show it's up to 9 out of 10 invoices have some kind of missing information or problem. And last but not least important, the lack of liquidity is huge. You have huge assets that needs to be bought to move the goods. You have warehouses, trucks, but also the invoices get paid on 37 days later. So it's a lot of capital locked up in infrastructure, inventories, and also in invoices. So imagine for a second if we were to gain 1% efficiency, what will happen? So 400 million gallons of fuel will be saved. 100 million hours of work that are now wasted will be saved too. And over 3 billion miles will not be driven every year. So in the US, 30% of the carbon emissions are coming from transportation. And 30% of that is coming from freight that's being moved, mostly in trucks. If we capture just half of the fleet that is not utilized today, those trucks that we're talking before that are empty, we'll be able to save 100 million tons per year of carbon emissions. And that would be more than $30 billion worth of fuel that will be saved. So why machine learning? So machine learning is all about efficiency, and I really like this definition. There's plenty of them out there. Machine learning is the science of getting computers to learn and act like humans do and improve the learning over time in an autonomous fashion. The only thing that's required for this to happen, not the only, but the most important thing that's required for this to happen is data and interactions with the real world. So in logistics, what can we do with machine learning? This is some of the things that we are doing with machine learning, but it applies for almost every other segment of the supply chain. So improved resource management is one of them. Predictive fluctuations in shipment volumes and also rates, that's very important. Optimize transport routes and faster delivery. Better customer service, you already see this in a lot of chatbots, right? When you're using chatbot with any support, that's already out there. Advanced image recognition, so you know that the shipment arrived in good condition. End-to-end autonomy transportation, autonomous truck. This is a reality. People say, oh, it's going to happen in 10 years. Actually, if you look at Waymo and plenty of companies, Tesla, these trucks are already there. It's more, the limitation, I think, is more coming from regulation than for actual technology. And last, we have also the ability to predict and monitor parameters such as delivery, risk of theft, of damage of the merchandise, weather patterns, and other issues that can affect capacity and load matching. So what the platform is aiming to do is to optimizing using machine learning the trip planning. So if you take a typical shipment goes like this, the home of the driver, usually an owner-operator, this guy owns the truck and also manages the truck, it's his own company, drive the truck, I mean. He needs to take 2 hours to go to the location, pick up the load, after he found the load, of course. And then it gets loaded, then it goes loaded, but in the middle of it, sometimes they need to put fuel, right? And then once he does that, then there's a regulation that's very strict on safety. It's called hours of service, basically. And every truck have now a digital device that is called the ELD. It's a digital logging device that's in the truck that won't allow the truck driver to keep going until he has certain hours of rest. So after he does that, then he drives then another 6 hours and then deliver the goods. So machine learning will optimize this hour by hour. So it can plan ahead when does it need to rest, when does it need to, does it need to fuel to make this way more efficient. And this will in turn increase revenue, so this guy can take more loads in the same amount of time. So the enhanced load selection, I just wanted to show, if a truck driver, in that example that I was showing you before, will look for a load, the thing that he will look for is usually the one that's close by, right? So he doesn't have to drive empty to pick up. This is closer. But it might not be the one that's paying the most, right? And it might be 5 or 6 of them with different rates and going to different places. So most of the time, they try to get the one that pay the most to get out of that place. But what happens when they get to the next market? How much are they going to be able to get paid for once they are there? These guys are typically 3 weeks of the month driving. So it's very difficult for them to be able to calculate all the possibilities here and come up with the best pricing. So in this particular example, using machine learning, we can predict, there's an option that will give him $71 an hour. There's another option that will give him $76 an hour. There's another one that does $81, and combining a couple of trips. So this enhanced load selection goes back to being able to move more loads and make more money in the same time, which is very important for these carriers. Okay, so you can see, like I mentioned before, you've probably seen this before, but data is the new oil, because the only way for these algorithms to work efficiently or to unlock their real potential is with data, quality data and a lot of data. So if you look at the landscape of the companies 10 years ago and last year, you can see how platforms that control data are the ones that are more valuable today. You've probably seen this before. So if you look at the top 5, you're talking about Facebook, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, and Apple. These are all platforms that leverage that data to make more profits for the corporations. And this is, this platform, I think, is very important on this Web 2, but in the Web 3, this is about to change. And this is a good example. A month ago, I don't know if you've watched or followed Tesla at all, but 2 months ago, Elon Musk announced that next year, their robotaxi program will be launched. Which means that everybody, if you drive your personal car to work, most of the private cars are used 10% of the time. So it's very inefficient. A lot of capital was wasted there. With this program, the program that they are doing, they are launching basically a replacement for Uber. So your car, instead of being parked there, will drive itself, pick somebody up, take it to the place, and then come back to pick you on time to go home. The only reason this is possible and this economically feasible, it's not only because these are energy power, electric cars, but also because the autonomy behind it is now very safe. And the way they got to the point where they're about to launch in a year is because, and look at the prices here. So the average price of somebody that own a car per mile is about $62 per mile. In the case of the Tesla robotaxi, you're talking about $18 per mile. If you can compare that to $2 to $3 average for ride sharing like Uber or Lyft. So this is going to transform the landscape. And this is possible because all of these cars for the last 3 years have been all in the neural network. And by next year, it's going to be over 1 million cars on the road. These cars are all equipped with 2 computers and 8 cameras and a lot of other sensors. And they are sending all of this data back to the machine learning algorithm that allows the car to learn to drive better. And on top of it, as a driver, you are helping the car. When they are making a mistake and you're correcting it, you're also teaching the car as you go. So this is the power of machine learning, and this is the transformation that we're referring to, and it's happening right now. So when you go back to freight, you see the Uberization trend, where everybody wants to be the Uber of freight. So there's actually an Uber of freight. Uber freight is called. But there's also Tramfix, Convoy, and there's plenty more. The cheaper the technology gets, the more companies that will come with the same model. There's a couple here in Mexico that I know about, and in Argentina and Brazil. There's plenty of them coming up. The problem with this model is not only that you separate value from the users that create the value. It's a rent-seeking platform. You get 10, 20, 30%, depending on the market, out of a transaction. That we think there's a paradigm shift, and this is going to change very quickly. But on top of that, you're creating silos. So these guys are just digital brokers, digital intermediaries. I know about this because I've been a broker for 20 years. So all I'm doing here is adding a little bit of technology to a very old-fashioned model of intermediation. But blockchain can change the whole landscape about how data is managed and about how the value is not separated for the user. And we can, by using blockchain, we can bring collaboration between parties that were formerly competitors that don't talk to each other. For instance, I can be a shipper, and another shipper next door that I don't even talk to may have a half a truck, and I'll have a load, if I may say, and I might have another half. We can put the two together. We don't know that today. They don't talk to each other. So collaboration is the key word that I want you to take home when we talk about these decentralized systems. So this takes me to dexFreight. What is it that we're building, right? So dexFreight is a decentralized platform that allows shippers, carriers, and 3PLs to find each other and transact and collaborate way more efficiently than before, and also very securely and transparently. And why blockchain, right? A lot of these things were touched before, so I'm going to go quickly on it, but we use blockchain for identity. So Uport, they made a hell of a presentation before. I'm not going to get into that. Then objective reputation. So every transaction that happens in our platform, when the truck and the shipper find each other and decide on the terms and conditions, happen in a smart contract. Now the smart contract has a set of rules that none of the two parties can change. And this is kind of the rules of the game, but it also self-executes. So if I tell you, pick up at 8 a.m. Monday, delivery Friday at 2 p.m., and you do that, payment gets processed immediately. You don't need to wait for that guy to receive the invoice, send a check or a wire transfer, nothing. It happens instantaneously. But once that happens, you start learning about the performance of that carrier, right? So you know this company delivered on time, and you also know the driver. So you know reputation on the driver and the company, and in the future, the assets, because there's going to be autonomous trucks in the road. So we're using identity to basically attach reputation that comes from the smart contract. This is not the 5 stars that you get in Uber or eBay, right? This is an objective reputation. You still have the 5-star rating because the driver might be there on time but not wearing a shirt, right? So you really want to let them know that they did a good job. And all of this happens in digital transactions. So there's no need for paper records. You can print it out if you need to, but there's no need for that. And also we use blockchain for peer-to-peer communication and to monetize data. And this is very important because the machine learning that I was talking before is all about data monetization. Every contributor of the data, and it's anonymized data, they get the fair share. So if there's a user that pays for a premium service in the platform is free to use. All the users can come, use it for free. And there's some premium services. Some of them we provide, and I'll get into that in a minute. Some of them are provided by third parties. Anybody can come and build something on top of that. But if somebody were to pay, let's say, $100 per month to use a machine learning algorithm, all the business intelligence, some of that money will go back to the contributor using smart contracts. So the monopoly is not on a company. It's a community-owned system where everybody's compensated for their fair contribution, and they also receive the value. And tokenized payment is very complex. I'm not going to get into it, but our thesis is that we'll coordinate logistics for free and connect the collateral, meaning the invoice, to decentralized finance to bring very cheap capital to the logistics industry that's in much need for it. And at the same time, we'll drive mass adoption to crypto. We've been working hard with Maker, Centrifuge, and other partners on get this to market, and we hope to have good news very soon on this topic. So in the platform, they can do everything. There's 100% visibility from onboarding the carrier, dispatching, pick up the load, tracking and tracing, delivery payment, invoice, and all of this, and the data capture, of course. So this is what the platform looks like. At the bottom layer, you have Bitcoin. We are firm believers of open networks. Bitcoin is the largest network, it's the more secure network, it's the one that's been around the most. But Bitcoin doesn't have the smart contract capability, so we're building on top of RSK. Big shout out of these guys, they're here. Amazing team, we got a lot of support from them. If you're considering a project or a dApp or something that you want to do, I strongly recommend to considering them because you got a big team that will support you. Moving forward, then you have the core interactions, right? This is warehouses, shippers, carriers, they collaborate there. And at the top layer, you have a dApp store, just like you have in Google Play or Android, right? And so anybody can contribute. If you have something that can add value to the equation, you can bring it on, and it will put there, and you can make money, and the community also makes money for it. And the business model, I mentioned it before, is free. There's a free side. There's also a tokenized rewards program that allows it's called Dex Miles. Every shipper makes Dex Miles as they go, and they can exchange that for services in the platform, but they also can exchange that for the ultimate reward, which is equity. So every user ultimately becomes an owner of the platform. So the value they create belongs to them. There's a pay side, which is the premium services, and we have a couple of them that we are developing. One of them is decentralized finance, and the other one is decentralized insurance. But you get the point. there's plenty of way for us to make revenue. I'm not going to get into this. Some of the partners, partners and collaborators that we are exchanging in current exchanges with here, worth mentioning RSK, Maker, very good team, Centrifuge, Blockchain Academy Mexico, big supporters. If you need to know about us, you can reach out to them. They are here, amazing people. Thank you. And the last thing I want to touch is, Leo mentioned this from Coinbase, mentioned this not long ago. He said, this is happening here. This is not done in Norway, right? This is happening here in Latin America. But here in Mexico is another good example that you need to look into. So we are, for the past year, have been working with Port of Veracruz, ICABE, and the community of companies that work in the port in a proof of concept. And this is what it looks like today, after 8 months of development. So the Port of Veracruz have one of the first port community systems based on blockchain, and it's all done with collaboration with dexFreight. So you can think it's not only trucking, we're also moving to other verticals. To live, it's a very exciting moment. If you think you can contribute, if you're in logistics, if you're in development, whatever you think you can bring that can add value to the network, I will ask you to join us. Together, we will change the shape of future global logistics. Thank you.
Bueno, muchas gracias, Héctor, por la presentación.